Grief really wasn't something that was talked about when I was growing up in my family. I suffered the loss of my brother, my half brother, when I was 11 years old, to the grips of heroin addiction. And it made me ask some very big questions very early. Little 11-year-old Eliza was very confused. And I don't think my parents really knew how to handle it. I don't think our society generally knows how to handle it right now. I mean, that's changing because there's a whole death doula movement, and with the introduction of altered states of consciousness and psychedelics, and it's not just psychedelics that provide that, but just ideas about consciousness. Now that that has kind of made its way into the mainstream, I think we are on our way to talking about grief in a productive way, but it really was not a thing um, 15 years ago. And when I got to high school, and even in grade school we had a writing assignment, and I tried to like kind of write about this experience. It was my first time just trying to like maybe think about it a little bit. um, and my teacher looked at it and said, why are you feeling sorry for yourself? And kind of brought in her, comparing her amount of trauma to mine, and made me just feel like, oh, I have nothing to complain about, I should shut the fuck up. um, so that happened, and then in high school it was the same thing. I had another writing assignment, and it was the same exact thing. And just socially being like on sports teams, I remember this one instance of being in a group of girls, and we were getting to know each other. And when it gets to me, one person asks like, how many siblings do you have? And I said, I have one, but I had a brother, he died. And just the horrible awkward silence around around in that moment was palpable. um, so I really just kind of, it all went inward. Like, it was not acceptable to talk about um, it. And because we're not set up in a culture in a way where it is freely and openly spoken about. um, but I think that's changing. I do think that's changing, so that's the good news. But it was really when I got to college that I took my first photography class. So at this point, like, every time I tried to use my words, whether it's writing or just in person, kind of expressing myself about my grief, it was completely shut down. But when I took my first photography class, doing it with visual language and not having to explain myself, with words, um, in kind of a removed way, it was like very freeing. I felt like my confusion and my deep sadness and grief about losing my brother was able to feel heard for the first time. And yeah, this class, it really opened my eyes to the power of visual language and the nuance in it. And um, so in this class, um, we had a photo book assignment, and everyone was kind of making work about their life experiences or their trauma. And I was like, okay, like, I haven't really thought about this thing that happened to me um, in a while. Um, so maybe this could be, the outlet for it. So I began this project called Please Have This Room Made Up, in which I went around to hotel and motel rooms and reimagined or staged or arranged the moments leading up to my brother's passing. He died in a hotel room in the UK by himself. Um, and and the signs of touch in the hotel room, and like the idea of the hotel room as this kind of transient space where humans come and they stay for like a short period of time, then they go. Like, it's just like it really kind of is parallel to existence as a whole. But yeah, just going into these hotels and motels, some very shady, in the Middletown, Connecticut area, and really going in there, with friends who acted as stand-ins for my brother, and kind of investigating what he might have felt leading up to his decision to use. It became a really important exercise in empathy. Like, I really felt like I inhabited his brain, and what he would have been thinking, or just what he would have been seeing, what he would have been feeling in this space. And I wanted to explore his body in an interesting way, and explore the signs of touch, whether that's wrinkled bed sheets and dirty towels on the floor. Because at this point, my imagination of his death was deriving from 11-year-old Eliza, who fabricated this entire narrative in my head in order to kind of cope with the loss and to make sense of it. So I wanted to let that be heard. It was equally as cathartic as it was kind of re-traumatizing. But I think that line is kind of where growth lives. So I not only wanted to, articulate what my brother would have been thinking or feeling, leading up to his overdose, but also, my memory of my family members, and during that time of feeling like something was off, something was wrong, and waiting for the news from the London police, and that kind of limbo, that uncomfortable, imminent disaster feeling, was something I really wanted to articulate. And at this time, in my sophomore year of college, when I was making this project, I, began taking just like a psychology 101 course, and I was sitting in this room of what, 300 people, and, the professor began talking about a compensatory reaction. And I think this is really interesting, and it provided me a lot of relief. So basically, a compensatory reaction. It's like when we decide to shoot up at home in an environment that's familiar, um, our body, after the initial, use, our body, begins to metabolize the substance before we've even, ingested it or taken it, because of the environmental, triggers that tell you, not like consciously, that you're about to, receive this substance. So that, in connection to the idea of the hotel room being this transient space, this unfamiliar space, like, of course he overdosed, because his body was not receiving the same environmental cues to begin metabolizing, the heroin. So just that scientific explanation during this time, in tandem with really working out my feelings about the loss, it was so eye-opening, and it really brought me a lot of peace around the event, because I really felt like, the questions of whether he did it on purpose, that kind of stuff. Like, perhaps we will never really know the truth, but just the possibility of that being what happened was really cathartic. I explained this to my dad, and he agreed. He agreed. It was kind of, helpful in his grieving as well. I ended up making this project into a little book. I laser cut acrylic, like, um, privacy screens that you would put on like a bathroom window, um, to obviously evoke the environment. But I made this physical object. I don't actually have it anymore. I think, there might be a copy at, in my school's collection. I should go find it. But, just this object, that I created, that I really put a lot of effort into, going to like very shady motels, and, getting my friends to pose and really thinking hard about what my imagination at 11 years old was. It really was this kind of important object for me. And that's at that moment is when I realized like how powerful um, visual language and affirming kind of your imagination can be, how healing for your soul it can be. It was really important for me. After that, I learned that my brother did not die in a hotel room at all. Plot twist. um, he died in kind of a rented apartment, like, a little different, but it like really, I was irate when I learned this, that I put all this work into going to all these hotels and motels and really like drilling home the story that I thought was true, that he died in a hotel room and the space was so important. Um, but it wasn't true. Obviously now, I see the value of letting 11-year-old Eliza's imagination be heard, like that. I'm very thankful that, I got that part of the story wrong, because it was in my imagination at that point. And I don't think that's any less deserving of being expressed as what actually happened or the truth. So from there, I during in my like irate um, in my irate state, I went into a very sterile studio environment just to abstract the entire dynamic of my brother and my dad. And but that's a story for a different video. But to wrap up, this project, it was important for me because that that grief was living inside of me, and it was coming out in kind of unproductive ways where I was looking for that missing connection that I felt like I was robbed of in my relationships with other people. But once I sat down to really think about and investigate my imagination, how I felt towards my brother, and the events leading up towards my family, everything. As soon as I began to investigate that, it allowed me to move forward. So, in a culture where grief is kind of taboo, it's a taboo subject, stigmatized, and death, and just thinking about it and talking about it is very not, it's not normalized the way it should be. Um, this project really provided me with a sense of um, being there for myself, in it for the first time. And I look back on this project as one of the most formative um, explorations that I have ever made. So, in the spirit of talking more about grief, I think everyone should make a project like this. Everyone should investigate their feelings towards a loss, or something that happened in their lives that they're carrying with them. So don't be afraid to really be there for your younger self, and don't be afraid to look at the experiences and really investigate how you feel about them. Thanks for watching. Signing off.